Hey everybody, welcome again to another exciting episode of the Crowdsourced Politics News Roundup. I'm your host and moderator, Cypher here, and today we are going to cover a lot of news. I am just waiting potentially for a person to join me on the program today, so we'll be getting started here shortly. In the meantime, I'll tell you a little bit about the program and everything that we do. So this is Crowdsourced Politics. Crowdsourced Politics is a podcast born out of a funky little debate community on Facebook. And what we've been podcasting and streaming for about just under 2 years now. We started off doing podcasting, and then we decided to stream for our audience and everybody that joins in. So if this is your first time joining us on the program, please go ahead and check out Crowdsourced Politics on your favorite streaming service, or on YouTube and Twitch for YouTube, Twitch, and now Facebook for your live stream episodes here. We do another program in addition to Crowdsourced Politics and the News Roundup called Cypher State, which is a monthly foreign affairs and policy focused podcast. We just had our second episode this past Sunday, and you can check that. You can check the live broadcast over on Twitch or YouTube right now, but if you would rather wait for a little bit more production value, a little bit of the ums or ers and all that stuff taken out of the audio, the podcast will be posted here by Monday sometime before 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So go ahead and check that out again, wherever you may get your podcast. I'm going to set up a little bit because I wasn't expecting to be by myself. So give me a quick moment while I do that here, because I just want to make sure I'm able to show everything that I do. Just going to go over and switch over here. All right, there we go. So now I'm switched over, so we're good to go. All right, let's go ahead and get started with the news this evening with some international news coming at you from Myanmar. So there's a little bit of background here. Beginning with some background, in February of this year, the military took over the government in a coup that left the just elected leader from the National League for Democracy Party, who won in a landslide, under house arrest and the military in charge of the country. Myanmar, also known as Burma, is in Southeast Asia. Its neighbors are Thailand, Laos, Bangladesh, China, and India. The accusations by the military was widespread election fraud, which was denied by the Election Commission. After the coup, the governments declared a 1-year national emergency and said that a, quote, free and fair democratic election would take place after the emergency was over. Mass protests have taken place since the takeover of the country. The US, the UK, and European Union have sanctioned government officials. US Secretary of State Anthony Blinken has called the security forces, quote, a reign of terror. Military Commander-in-Chief Min Aung Hlaing took power after the coup. He has long wielded significant political influence, successfully maintaining the power of the Tatmadaw, Myanmar's military, even as the country moved toward democracy. So a little bit of background information about Myanmar here. It had successful elections twice, and the last successful election was just this past year. Under President Sun Lee. So it was under a military dictatorship for 30 years, and there was a popular democratic protest movement in order to bring about democracy to Myanmar. Now, when the military still kept a great big hold of power over Myanmar. It allowed elections, but had representatives within the government that it chose to represent its interest. And when the country started to veer away from its interest, it started to crack down. And that's what we're seeing here today. One of the other things that is important to note is that it used the animosity towards the Rohingya Muslim ethnic group in order to bolster its own power and to make themselves closer to the ultra-conservative Buddhist, believe it or not, sect that exists in Myanmar that believes in a Buddhist supremacist state. So that is the grand background here. And what we're seeing today is basically what we see anytime a military dictatorship doesn't want to relinquish power or believes that it is being taken away from them too quickly. We're seeing massive crackdowns and the budding of a civil war. So that is the background there. Oh, yeah, thanks. Maybe it isn't me for the good evening. Appreciate it. So let's get back into it. Let's see, where was I? A shadow government has formed to protest the military junta. That is the National Unity Government, also known as NUG, which has launched what they refer to as a, quote, People's Defensive War. More than 1,000 have been killed, 6,000 have been arrested, and refugees are fleeing the country. CNN reported earlier this month that over the past 8 months, the military has waged a bloody crackdown on nationwide protests in opposition to its rule. More than 1,000 people have been killed by security forces and more than 7,800 arrested, according to advocacy group Assistance Association for Political Prisoners. Local resistance forces have formed to defend towns and villages and carry out guerrilla-style attacks on military forces. Thousands of people have been displaced in fighting between Myanmar soldiers and these militia groups, particularly in the ethnic minority regions. As of Wednesday, according to the BBC, nearly all 8,000 residents of a town in Myanmar have fled following fighting between the army and militia forces opposed to the military coup. A number of houses in Tonglang Chin state were set ablaze by artillery during fighting over the weekend. It is thought that thousands of residents have fled to India across the nearby border. Myanmar's military seized power in a coup in February, sparking huge protests, blah, blah, blah. In August, General Min Aung Hlaing, named himself prime minister and said the country's state of emergency would be extended, because of course it was. They were never going to give up power at all. Sorry. I had to clear my throat. So where are we at? So the deposed president has been put on trial for incitement and other crimes alleged by the military government. Tuesday saw the court hear prosecution testimony that Aung San Suu Kyi flouted coronavirus restrictions during elections her party won by a landslide last year, her lawyer said. Next month, she will face a new trial on corruption charges, and she has also been charged with violating a colonial-era secrecy law, although this has yet to come to court. Her NLD government was deposed by the military over unsubstantiated allegations of voter fraud during the 2020 polls, in which a troubled political party aligned with the generals. So what we can be seeing in Myanmar is basically what we see a lot of the times. A lot of the times, which is, like I said earlier, it's the military trying its best to retain power. I'll end this. Oh, I see. Sorry, my stream wasn't actually set up properly. I was still using the other tab. Sorry about that, everybody. So what we're seeing, like I said, is the military trying to keep its grip on power, using ethnic tensions in order to cement loyalty to itself, and also massive violations of human rights, political prisoners, extrajudicial killings, and the like. Myanmar is something that Cypher State will probably cover more in depth in the months to come, especially if this ends up creating a broader regional conflict or broader regional instability. So be sure to tune in to that later. Moving on. Okay, I'm gonna make sure. Okay, so moving on. So reports out of Spain of a volcano erupted on Spanish island of La Palma in the Canary Islands on Sunday, forcing thousands to flee the lava flow, according to the BBC. It sits in the Cumbre Vieja National Park and had been stable since 1971. The island had been on alert for possible eruption for the past year, with many nearby residents being advised to evacuate. Canary Islands President Angel Victor Torres told TVE that no injuries had been reported. Let's go ahead and check out this video link here about the eruption. Let's see. Your screen. And there we go. Oh, what? Oh, okay, sorry. What the heck, man? Sorry, new system setup here, and it's not actually showing, so I need to tab back over.
It's so loud. It's amazing how loud it is. It is like a fighter.
All right. I don't know why. Is it not on the right scene? It's not on the right scene. That's why. Sorry about this, everybody. I am still getting used to my new setup. It wasn't on the right scene. That's why you didn't see it. So we'll go ahead and also transform. Where's the transformation? I'm gonna do this really quick because things got jacked up. This is probably the worst time I've ever had with my stream. Sorry, everybody. We did just get a new system in going here, and now
It's so loud. It's amazing how loud it is. It is like fighter jets taking off, like 20 of it, I will say. Really, really loud. And I'm like 6-8 kilometers away, a straight line from that place. And from here, you can really listen to the noise. It's breathtaking, really.
And that is the volcano eruption in Spain. So this is going to likely cause issues, especially with public health and the like in Spain. So be sure to pay attention to that in the coming months and weeks. And this still is not properly aligned. All right, I'm going to just go over to annoying. Okay, there. All right. Now, moving on to the next story of the night, Ukraine. So one of Ukraine's president Zelensky's top aides was shot in what is being called an assassination attempt. The attack took place in Kiev. As the aide left his home in Kiev, the aide's driver was wounded by bullet fire at the car. While it's unknown who is responsible for the shooting, Russia has denied any involvement. As reported by the BBC, the aide, Sherry suggested he was targeted in a bid to intimidate the highest echelons of power, and that such an attempt would not work. One has to understand that the president is very strong-willed. He has a spine and cannot be intimidated. Speaking from New York, where he is participating in the United Nations General Assembly, Mr. Zelensky said saying hello to me by shooting out of the forest at my friend's car is weak. The response will be strong. Police investigating the shooting near the village of Linsky said that they were exploring the possibility that Mr. Shifir may have been targeted for his work or as part of a bid to destabilize the government. The attack comes a few days before Mr. Zelensky's bill to rein in Ukraine's powerful oligarchs is debated in parliament. Ukraine's oligarchs are a small group of super rich businessmen who dominate the country's economic and political life. Now, okay, I'm just not going to use that scene anymore because it's being stupid. I'm gonna have to reset this up. So no more video sharing, everybody. I'm sorry. So what? Oh, Universal Discourse is here. All right, we're going back to the other scene. I gotta set this back up. All right. Seriously. Hi, Uni. How are you doing?
Hi, how are you?
I can't hear you. You're muted on your end?
No. Or is it no?
What the heck, bro? This
Actually,
has been
it's
the
doubled
worst
on my
night,
end.
I swear to God, with
It
my
is.
streaming today. Can you make sure that in the options your mic is assigned? I don't think I have the site muted. I do not.
It says it's on.
Tonight has just been bad. I am sorry, everybody that's watching. This is usually not. It does not usually go this badly.
Okay, can you hear it now? Unmuted. Everything's gone Scott
Oh, you know
today.
what? It might be on my end. Default.
Yeah.
There we go.
Okay.
It was on my end. I am sorry, everybody. I had it signed to the wrong output. Where?
Yep, input output. It's always the problem.
There we go. Okay.
All right. So even I had trouble today. We have really severe storms, and I got it all set up, code streamed. I'm ready to go, and I went, and it just kind of went, and so I just had to sit there.
Oh man, that's
in a
terrible.
void. Yeah. So I'm so sorry for. Anyway, I hung in there.
Well, I appreciate you joining the program. If you could just click the little cog and turn off echo or turn off auto gain. I think that might
I
be
turned
on
it
there.
off already.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
Good. All right. Sorry, everybody. We're back live now. Yeah, it's just it's what happens when you get a new setup and you're just not used to using it all that much. So let's go ahead and back in it. All right. So Universal Discourse. I was just telling people about Ukraine. I know that you have a lot of stuff that you would like to say about Ukraine. I'm sure. I think we talked about that a little bit. So what's going on?
Well, let me catch up with you on your Google Drive. I had a whole bunch ready today, and then we had so many technical problems. So, what have you covered so far on it?
I just read the little blurb, so just went through the little blurb. Haven't gotten to the analysis of it yet.
All right, I need to pull open your docs.
Sure.
For that, because it was a wealth of stuff today.
Yes, it was.
And I had my tabs open, and of course the browser crashed. So I have to catch up with you for once.
Ain't that the way?
No, never. We've never had a bad such a bad tech day as today. But anyway, It doesn't matter. We're just hanging in there. Screw it. We'll do it.
We're all good. We had about 4 or 5 people watching, so we're good still.
I love the fact that chat is so loyal that they'll hang even though,
right?
And
especially like maybe it isn't me. Right or die.
You know what though? As a streamer, it honestly makes you feel so good when they do that. It's the coolest thing when they wait. They see you having trouble and they're like, "That's okay, hang in there." It's very, very good, supporting. Okay, so where are our? Here we go. All right. So did you do Myanmar? Crap, right?
Well, we can go back. I mean, I like
That's
it when
okay.
people, No,
That's
it's
okay.
fine. I didn't really do much analysis on Myanmar, so we can go ahead and go back and do onto Myanmar. It's fine by me. I
Okay.
don't really mind it.
That is something I have in person insight and expertise in. But so today, so Ukraine, Zelensky's top aide was shot at in what's being called an assassination attempt, right? So Kiev, as the aide left his home in Kiev, the aide's driver was wounded by bullets fired at the car. All right, so a shot like that started World War One, right? Somebody steps out and pap and assassinates Ferdinand, right?
Hmm.
So these things aren't just, oh, somebody went off his rocker and decided to take a pop, right? Russia
Yeah.
denies any involvement. Well, they deny everything, so it doesn't matter. President Zelensky thinks it was a domestic or a foreign attack. In other words, deliberate. And Serhiy Shafir says he was targeted, the person who was shot at, in a bid to intimidate, quote, the highest echelons of power. Um, the response is so typical. One has to understand that our president Zelensky is very strong-willed. He has a spine. He cannot be intimidated. It's like, yeah, classic, right? Then this one is the president says is I want to I don't know, I need to frame this. Of all the botched assassination attempts, he says about it, well, saying hello to me by shooting out of the forest at my friend's car is weak. The response will be strong. That's so classic Russian. So, the stress between Ukraine and Russia, obviously, if anybody's bothered to follow it, I guess it's how tankies earn their name. Let's just roll over in
Yeah. No,
tanks
it
and mow
definitely.
them
Yep.
down until
Hold more.
regardless of what they think or feel, they're saluting our flag. Correct? So my question were, all right, Russia, you came in and occupied. Ukraine behaves independently with autonomy, with a spine, right? And now somebody's tried to shoot this president. Russia denies any involvement. Russia's never not involved in Ukraine. There's not a millisecond of their existence where Russia isn't it for them. So it's safe to assume that, oh, yeah, Russia either knew about it or didn't do anything about it or they had something to do with it. They're definitely not against it. Why do they want him assassinated? Why are they shooting the aide? That's pretty much a warning. Like, we got him and you're next. So who is trying to intimidate President Zelensky? Of
Well,
course,
we
it
know
won't
that.
work. What is the goal here?
Well, we know that President Zelensky is pretty anti Russian, but he's also trying to go after the oligarchs, especially in the East, that have ties to Russia that made a lot of their money with Russia. So it could be either Russia or the oligarchs for this situation. But we do know that the Don. Oh, I'm gonna butcher the name. Donzetz. Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's butchered. I
Eastern
have no idea.
Ukraine. I can't
Okay.
pronounce anything today, but we do know in Eastern Ukraine that there's a lot of loyalty towards Russia, and like how America's kind of split north and south between like kind of heavily rural and more urban. That's kind of how Ukraine is split east and west. And then since the east end of the Ukraine is also majorly, it's majorly it's bordering Russia. Russia's able to beam propaganda into eastern Ukraine. So it could be any number of different people. If I had to guess, though, I would say it's probably Russia.
Well, obviously, okay. So Volodymyr Zelensky, what a great name, got into office on his campaign platform to end the oligarchy. a few days before he began the process of reining them in, as it is said, this botched attempt or warning shot was fired. I would put it that way, a warning shot. So it will always look like the oligarchs. But what's the
Right.
relationship between the oligarchy and Russia? Obviously, they're in bed together. So Russia doesn't really have to say they did anything or actually do anything. They just sort of have to give the nod, and the oligarchs will get bold enough to take action.
True.
So I didn't bother to check how long can he remain. What is a presidential term in Ukraine? I should have checked that. This is 2 years in. So how much more time does Zelensky have to make good on this? Did he bite off more than he could chew? He doesn't. He's not actually. All of the social media around him is not terribly favorable to him.
No, for sure.
The propaganda started really fast. You know what I'm saying? The
Yeah.
nationalists, if you do, sort of. He's, I mean, they painted a picture of an incompetent, rash, dangerous man, almost to the point of being a heretic. So the loudest voice don't like him. The quieter ones, the one we want to hear from, they're not saying much. What's happening with him?
Yeah. I just looked it up. The term for Ukrainian president is 5 years, with the ability to have a renewal for one, so a total of 10, similar to the United States. And so he has been serving since 2019. He's got about 3 years left. 3 years of ability. It's not a lot.
That's not enough time.
No.
I don't think he'll survive.
Well, you think he won't survive because he'll be assassinated, or you think he'll get voted out of office?
All of it. I mean, the rhetoric against him is so bad. You could see them possibly like removing him from office posthumously. Like seriously, it's that nationalistic. It's that rabid.
Really?
It's like the old days of the Tsarina, in Russia. It's very much like that. Very much, very orthodox, and just so, and the language, all of it. And I'm like, God, I feel like we just went backwards in time, easily 100 and, easily to 1799 or something, like seriously backwards in time.
I had no idea.
200 years. From the knowledge and familiarity I have with Russian oligarchy and the pre-revolutionary period, the types of language that they would use, the posturing, I mean, it's identical. So, and then botched assassinations. Well, that was also Nicholas. Happened to Nicholas. I'm just thinking none of this is. I think this is just sort of. How do I want to say this? Russia has a playbook, if you will.
Right.
And it plays chess, and often it revisits what we would call its classic opening moves, because it's almost like a brand. And I just get the feeling that that's what I'm sorry, but this resembles that. When they do a warning shot, it's not going to be long. I just don't think this poor man is going to make it through. And I also don't feel that he has the relationship with the army, the international relationships, to sustain him if he makes, if he sort of throws a Hail Mary and he doesn't have enough time. And he doesn't have the clout. He does not have the clout. And he doesn't have allies. I don't know what he's going to do, but I think he's terribly brave to even attempt what he's doing. But is it too far-fetched? Was he total idealistic? Is he just a big fat liar? And there's way too many layers of I don't know. and I don't want to see the outcome and find out that it didn't end well. And you know what I mean? There's nothing anybody could have done. Russia clearly wants Ukraine. That's it, as far as they're concerned.
Yeah,
You know, they have the whole anything Crimean is ours, anything in the region, anything anywhere, Georgia, all of it, it's ours. Here we are. Here we are. Boom.
yeah. At the very least, if not wanting outright control, at least having a buffer to NATO and the West. It has been hypothesized that the primary reason why Russia has half invaded the eastern Ukraine is because as long as Ukraine as a country is under civil like in a civil war like conditions or not entirely stable, that it cannot join the EU or NATO. And so that is
Correct.
a win for Russia, regardless if it's able to wrestle control of the full territory or not.
Well, see, that was their stated. They were explicit about that.
Yeah.
They were like, look, if we can't stop NATO from encroaching, we're going to ruin these areas, and NATO has no reason to accept them. Neither does the EU. And Ukraine was begging and trying. Oh, it pisses me off. Trying so hard. They actually have the resources and the wherewithal to be able to be part of the EU and therefore NATO. But yeah, Russia did it deliberately. They poisoned the well, if you will. They did a scorched earth on them. And oh, if we can't have you, nobody will, kind of almost type thing. And they were very explicit about that. Because they were like China. Well, we're not going to apologize for being bastards. Because what are you going to do? Argue with a tank? Say anything you want, but we're here. This is traditionally our land, and it started to look like Israel and Palestine. And I was covering
I can see that.
that entire invasion and Myanmar. So yes, we had correspondence. We were dealing with the refugees. We were dealing with the asylum seekers. We were taking the interviews and getting the documentation for the stories, and was it war crimes or not? And we had to watch endless, like every hour, just decks of photographs and footage. It was another, well, I guess that's what I do. But it was just, God, it was heartbreaking. So, you know, I think even more of a sort of an injustice in Tigray. I would expect something like tribal warfare in Tigray, and Ethiopia, but this was just, you know, it was uncalled for. And when they greased up their treads, I knew it. USSR collapsed, and I said, no, they didn't collapse. It's all for show. Just give them time. Take away their two toys, see what happens. And here came Putin's little ponies. Here we go again. Just like, did not miss a beat. And then rolled into Georgia and took it no matter. Georgia went, oh, we are not going to fight. Okay, we sing and we harvest weed and make good wine and stuff. Nope, not going to do it. Here we go. Yep, where do we sign? Forget it. They took a totally pacifistic approach, I think very wisely. Russia was extremely disappointed, so Georgia had a victory. They were like, yeah, you won, but you lost. Very Taoist. And I went, thank God, because, you know, they just tend to blow things up, things that matter to you a lot. They remove your heritage. So, the Ukraine, though, from the get-go, fought, and it was young people. They were not even born when the USSR collapsed. It was young people. Didn't even know how to fight. And they, everything, rocks, sticks, stones, cow dung, anything. And they put up such a fight and such resistance. I mean, the footage is everywhere. If you want to go take a look at something extraordinary, it was like Tiananmen Square times a bajillion. That kid that stood in front of the tank, the student. Oh my God. So here he comes, Zelensky. I don't know if he's a fool. Is he idealistic? Or does he have hidden assets? So all I can do here is try to provide some provocative questions because when you deal with Russia, you will never know what the truth is. They will never tell you. They would never let you understand what the truth is ever, 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 ever. That's what they're good at. Obfuscation.
100%. Yeah,
Yeah. Mm.
Go ahead.
No, I guess, it's just it's a horrifying thing to watch them be eaten alive by the ghost of this great bear. Oh.
Yeah, I can't.
Hmm.
And the Russian propaganda, and this is something that has to be said, because it's partly true, but Russia propagandists really did 100% exploit this. There was issues with Nazism, or at least probably still are, honestly, with Nazism within Ukraine when the Ukrainian when the Western Ukrainians were pushing for to get rid of Poroshenko, and prior to Russia invading Donetsk region, there was highly nationalistic, and it was like the common phrase was Ukraine for Ukrainians, and being very anti-ethnic Russian, not just government Russia, but Russians themselves. And about during the revolution and in the war, some anywhere between 5% and 15%, but closer to probably 10% of the military and of the revolutionary forces, the people that actually were fighting, that were throwing bombs or they were posting up and doing military exercises and stuff, were affiliated with Nazi groups. And Russia exploited the fuck out of that, just like anybody else.
Oh, that's what they will do.
And just like anybody else. Yeah, no, for sure. Just like anybody else would. And so that is something that has to be mentioned. They've gotten a bit better handling on it since the initial waves, but they're still anywhere between, like in any country, honestly, anywhere between 5 and 10% of people are authoritarian, hugely ethnic nationalist people, and Russia has convinced Eastern Ukrainians or Russians that live in Eastern Ukraine that if Ukraine succeeds in its endeavors, there will be a massive ethnic cleansing of ethnic Russians from Ukraine.
So they've convinced ethnic Russians, who are actually the only bona fide Caucasian people in the world, by the way, that there's going to be an ethnic cleansing of them.
Yes.
So Russia. So that sounds like the Proud Boys, the Great Awakening, and a Rahowa.
Yeah, no,
racial holy war. So that's what that is.
Definitely the same thing.
So that's the Great White Replacement, is what you're saying. That's their version of it.
Sure, yeah, their version. Their version. I'll concede to that.
Poor persecuted Russians, right?
Yep.
Yeah. Okay, so those poor persecuted Russians backed the Central African Republic, okay, which has provided them with landmines. So that's one of their tactics. The CAR, Central African Republic, okay, speaking of Africa, Russia interest, here's what they do. They plant landmines. It's a whole lot like the killing fields, all right? So it's so dangerous for aid workers that there basically just aren't any who are willing to even try. Right. So that's the kind of thing Russia does, right? They back you, and then you're the monster that blows people up and kills babies, and you do all the dirty work, and they just hose down the treads on their tanks and act like their hands are clean. It's like Charles Manson. I didn't ask them to kill that family and slaughter all those people. They're loyal to the state. They will be rewarded as heroes. And that's exactly the kind of thing Trump did when he was signaling. I didn't tell him to do that.
Right.
Because he was coached the whole time. I know what the Russian tactic is intimately. And I'm like, you can only have gotten that crap the way you've done it by 100% complying with somebody who's coaching you to do it. It's so counterintuitive. And I'm like, no, you were coached. Like you probably had an earbud, and there's Putin over there going, Donnie, say this, say it like that. Now watch, ha, see, yeah, my good friend. Also, if you want to know exactly who this poor president is up against, Medvedchuk, pro-Russian Party for Life. He's an important channel of communication with the Kremlin. He's under house arrest, and he's made Putin mad. He didn't make him mad. The decision to put him under house arrest absolutely infuriated him, which is brilliant, right? Because basically what he did was he was charged with treason. He calls it political repression, outright treason. If he's sentenced, they will execute him. He's going to die. Putin is outraged. Viktor Medvedchuk. The other one, the oligarchs. Here's the oligarchs. Kolomoisky. The rich man, private bank. He founded this. They took it from him because 4.5 billion, 3.2 billion euros just went missing from the balance sheet. So he can't operate his bank anymore. He's in extraction and airlines. You know, extract that, jet away. He said he did absolutely nothing wrong. I don't know where 4.5 billion went, but he did nothing wrong. Period. Maybe he flew it to who knows. So these people aren't just corrupt; they're career criminals. They're KGB level criminals. Seriously. So if there was a warning shot, I believe that was retaliation, a warning, because all of Putin's little right hands, where he was slapped in the hand, right? It's as much as saying to Russia, okay, well, you rolled over, you planted a flag. All right. But we operate this country with sovereignty, and these are criminals, and we're handling them. It feels like what happens with land back on reservations, where we have sovereignty, but you keep interfering. And we're going to conduct justice, autonomously. And I believe that's at the heart of the matter here. That this is a situation where they are an occupied sovereign nation, and by agreement attempting to operate as such, as a sovereign nation. And although Russia allowed them their, quote, autonomy and their distinct individual identity, they don't actually want them to be autonomous. They just want them to pretend to have autonomy while they operate their criminal arm, right, in this other country. And then comes the propaganda, they're trying to kill us all. It's easy to push that when this guy could be facing execution. It's very easy because when you occupied illegally and you damn well know it, the settlers expect the Indians to come for them. So this is, ironically, to me, it's almost identical to indigenous nations during the colonial era. The politics and the dynamics are identical. Bizarre.
That's an interesting insight, Yuri.
Well, look it up yourself. Go look it on timeline, and then you could replace Native American ban colony with Ukraine, Russia, and it would match 100%. No difference.
I'll definitely have to check that out.
Yeah.
I think we've kind of exhausted our talk about Ukraine. I mean, exhausted as far as time constraints are concerned. We could do this for
you're
hours.
Right. You're right. It's exhausted because I believe that's as far out of that's as much rope as we can let out on this.
Yeah.
So case is not closed, but holy crap. Anyway, you're right.
there is so much more to discover, and that's honestly why we started Cipher State, and I'm going to plug it again. So Cipher State is a foreign affairs and foreign policy dedicated podcast coming out from the Crowdsourced Politics and Crowdsourced Tribune. It is going to be a monthly podcast starting off where we'll dive deep into either one topic or a handful of topics and give you kind of the analysis that people on political Twitch and YouTube and experts, analysts, academics, etc. can only provide in mass, like kind of like crowdsourcing or something. So go ahead and check out Cipher State on your favorite streaming service, podcast streaming service. But if you prefer video, it is on YouTube right now. But if you prefer a little more brush up, a little bit more production value, go ahead and wait until Monday. It will be published on your favorite streaming service sometime around 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So we have more international news to cover. There has been a huge development in terms of U.S., Australian, and UK relation and France relations. For those that may not be aware, recently the United States reached a deal. The United States and the UK reached a deal with Australia to provide nuclear-powered submarines to Australia in accordance with United States view of what China may or may not be doing in the South China Sea. This was actually kind of a thing that pissed off the French a lot because they kind of stole they definitely stole a contract from the French kind of under their nose without letting them know about it, where the French were going to provide diesel-operated submarines to Australia, and they scuttled that deal in favor of these nuclear-powered subs. Now,
I love this.
Now, while it's funny, it's definitely funny that France could think that they were going to be able to sell diesel-powered subs. Diesel-powered subs do have utility still in warfare. However, it's diesel, contributing to climate change, very expensive to maintain, can't be powered forever, have to have hell of a load, etc., etc.
Okay.
So that's what's going on here. China definitely is pissed. France is pissed, and so let's talk about it.
I tell you what. Okay. Another one that I am very intimately involved with and have been since 2016. So nothing. I was hearing from journalists. I was hearing from nationals. There's something going on. Australia wants the U.S. to come in and help it out because China is starting to take over and they're putting a lot of pressure. And India has Adani and they want to destroy the Great Barrier Reef. Holy shit, everything's going up in flames. Oh my God, there's corruption, Manus, Nauru, all kinds of horrible, awful, like disgusting Joe Arpaio type insanity and abuse and horrific human rights violations. And there's Australia, the cowboy continent, right? The outback, the down under. And it's kind of waiting for the U.S. So I was being asked by many reporters, journalists, academics, why don't the U.S. ever want to do anything with us?
Oh, what do you mean?
And I'm like, human rights violations.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
And they were like, what? Well, I said, the U.S. has learned what happens when you treat your indigenous people the way that you do. I said, you guys are the U.S. 150 years ago. Like, you still think you're out there in that wild outback. I mean, you're British. Do you think we're friends with the UK? Like, genuinely? No. I was like, that's not going to work because the UK is part of the EU. It still was at that time. All right. And they said when they Brexit, would the US renegotiate its relationships? I said, God help us and God willing, if we have a good president, which we then didn't. I said, yeah, if, and then no. And then I went, forget it. So I gave up hope. So the deal about the submarines was on the table 2015, 2016. France insults Australia by saying, Oh, you're so afraid of China. Well, we'll give you diesel powered submarines. Australia, the prime minister at the time went, I beg your pardon. You know, like we could make better submarines ourselves. So they had gone over and talked to what Obama was coming out of office. So there really wasn't a whole lot of people they could. I mean, everybody's doing election year stuff. But they put in their proposal that says, can you give us a better deal than France? Because we need the nuclear powered subs, because this is China. China's fleet is huge now. Every single thing they said was true. China's fleet it is now the largest fleet in the world. Okay, a diesel powered submarine, when it says diesel, they are so easily tracked and identified because it's diesel, because of the discharge. They literally leave a carbon footprint anywhere they go. There's no way you can miss a diesel powered submarine. They're great for cargo if you're transporting sensitive equipment that you don't want blown up or shipwrecked in a storm, possibly. But no, we're talking about China. China will surround an island, claim it as its own, put all of its ships there, not explain itself to anybody, and they're always shocked when the satellites go, why are 120 carriers parked around this island? That's not even your island. It is so. It's ours. We said so. And here we go. It's just another Russia.
We had maps 250 years ago that showed us that these are ours because we were the big bad hegemon at the time, and we're going to take it back.
That's what they say. They say that they never lost it. It was always theirs, but the children, they've forgotten. So I'm here to remind them.
It's all in an effort to extend its economic reach into the South China Sea. I don't even like calling it the South China Sea, but that's the name it's there.
South Sea, South China Sea, South Asian Sea.
South Asian Sea. Because of the amount of minerals and mineral rights that exist beyond the 20 nautical mile border, as well as the ability to project military force and possibly control shipping lanes.
Right. China is mainly interested in the control of mainland. So when they make an imperial show of strength, just as England did, which once had the largest fleet in the world. So China's very imperial. It has never stopped being imperial. If you could just look at it that way, you could understand it. It has to raise a big flag. It has to have the biggest, bestest, mostest. It has to be convincing to its people that there is no greater cause. There is no greater provider. There is no greater empire. And their legacy, if they activated that, oh yeah, they could back. They have the receipts. They could back. They could point to damn near anything.
Oh yeah,
any invention, starting with gunpowder, and go, see, that is all ours. So they have this tremendous pre-existing influence. And when they show up to remind you, you are obligated as good children, as sons, as how they put it. Japan will say, if they obligate themselves to you, they will say, I am your son. So to remind people that you better be good sons and daughters. You're going to be good sons and daughters. They're just overwhelming, and the violence and the absolute brutality against the Tibetan monks, for instance, everybody knows what's going to happen.
It seems that with the Belt and Road Initiative and other projections of both soft and hard military power, that China is, at least to me, going back somewhat to trying to create a vassalage system, which is what it used to maintain its empire.
Correct.
For thousands of years. They buy off local politicians or local leaders and get them to swear fealty.
And then they beat up the peasants to make sure the peasants don't cause a big bad problem.
Exactly.
Okay. The feudal and the vassalage system works, obviously one of the most successful in history for China.
Yeah.
You know, China's civilization with that system is only 10,000 years old. Look at them.
One
Come on.
of the oldest continuous civilizations in human history, if not the oldest, since you can.
Older than Hindu. No, the oldest.
Well, I was
The oldest. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I would say continuous. Yes, continuous. There's been other empires before China, obviously, but well, maybe not the maybe like we can take the record back only so far, right?
Well, for archaeology, for technology, the oldest was in South America, in Bolivia and Peru.
Yeah.
But we have no other evidence of what that civilization was, just that they could cut
Right.
rock with laser accuracy, but we didn't have anything else. 50,000 years ago. Okay, anyway. Anyway, oldest known, 12,000, China, which puts them at 10,000 BC.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I think that'll make the Guinness Book. That's fine. All right. So what they do, they know how to do very well, because that system survived absolutely everything, all the way into the modern era where they are a world power. They have maintained and retained that.
Yeah.
So underestimating, don't poke the bear, it's the sleeping giant, right?
Well, Russia
underestimating
wishes it
them
was.
underestimating them is all of modern human history is going to come crashing down on you, because they literally invented everything that led to all the technology and industrialization that you have today. So
Good part of it, anyways. Good part of it.
well, combustion, coal, conversion, gas to electricity, gunpowder,
Gas to electricity.
mass producing, and miniaturization. They actually had all that going on. Way before that was picked up very late by a very young Europe. So
Right.
that's true. They had all of it.
Printing press too.
There's that.
Printing.
And
Well,
they
I'm
had
saying-
opium and tea. So and silk. So they had everything going.
The history of tea is very interesting. I do want to mention that with Australia, one of the reasons that we're seeing Australia make plays like this is because China within Southeast Asia has taken some of the tactics that Russia did against the United States in its propaganda efforts. China has its own troll farms. China has its own ability to manufacture consent, quote unquote, within Southeast Asia. They've started hiring celebrities and influencers across social media in order to try to push a pro-Chinese government message across the region.
Okay.
Australia and New Zealand were one of the first, quote unquote, Western governments that were targeted by these Chinese efforts, and that is ramping up still. So when you can kind of tell, at least I can, when a person is operating as a Chinese propagandist, not just a person that's pro-China, but an actual Chinese propagandist. There's little tells that I might actually tell people later when I get them all written down. But they're out there.
It's very easy. They sound like a missionary, like a Jehovah's Witness that has come to proselytize and convert you. Only they're more polite and they don't knock door to door.
Yeah, so
they deliver
that's true.
a script, and you can tell they're delivering a script that they have swallowed some Kool-Aid. Wow. And no matter what you say, they have the response. They don't miss a beat. Nobody is that well prepared. That's how you know propaganda. Because propaganda has a response for any angle, because they thought it out ahead of time. Also, Russia did not know how to do that. It learned how to do that from the Chinese. So when the Chinese say, son, I'm about to show you how this is done, it's like, oh, but the thing is, the purpose of Chinese propaganda is by and large to make itself, to galvanize the spirit of its people, to muster, to rally, to make them feel good about themselves. It's also, in the case of Australia, they want to look their very, very best for a trade partner. They shine for every ally. They shine for you. They spare no expense impressing you, and they maintain it.
That's true.
All right. They are not shining for the U.S. anymore. So somebody in the U.S. effed it up. That was not an ally you want to lose. And China held its hand out in its own way to the U.S. since Nixon. And the U.S. dropped the ball every single time. Every single time.
Mm.
And I thought, they waited. So you can accuse them of being and doing X. But America had its chance. They underestimated China. They're about to find out why that was a mistake. And I'm like, oh, God. And it isn't going to be World War II. China doesn't do that.
No.
But China can just nod and shake a sleeve, in that imperial manner that they have. And everybody understand what needs to be done. And so China can stall you to death. And they have been nothing but gracious and cooperative. And then Trump comes in, and they went, no. And I went, yeah, maybe that was what Trump was put in office for. China was disgusted with him.
To be a little fair.
That is fair. That's just fair.
No. I mean, what I'm gonna say is, like, to be a little fair. It wasn't just Trump. So
no, it wasn't just Trump.
Yeah,
no,
that's what I'm saying.
That was, I think, the last straw.
Oh, okay, gotcha. So
I'm gonna have to say they were no longer gracious.
Sure. For sure.
It was very quick. They at the UN saying, "Look, the U.S. is no longer in a position to make such threats." And I went, "Oh, that's the end of it." And they just went, "So sad. We are not your son."
Interesting.
We're going to Australia now. We're going to Africa now. We're going to go ahead. We held out. The cultural differences. Nobody in the United States government has any actual cross-cultural training. They get the job. They do their version of effing it up. Okay? And it's so unbelievably stupid and biased. They will not actually take training in communicating across cultures. Shocking, isn't it?
Is that mainly? No. Well, I want to see if it's. Are you saying that's even within the professional State Department, or is this more of a political?
Yeah.
So even the professional State Department, you
nobody in the government or Secretary of State's division, no, none of these liaisons and ambassadors.
Well, the ambassadors
have actually taken,
but the foreign service, the professionalized foreign service, people that have been there for decades or years, they don't get that kind of training. You're saying
they actually don't take the training. Okay,
interesting.
No, it's not provided to them, so they will just go and waste 10 years trying to figure out how to use chopsticks and stupid things like that. Stupid. They come back virtually ignorant and empty-handed and very, very biased and judgmental. When you talk to them, which, that's what I have. One of the things I have to do is briefing, debriefing, right? And when you talk to them, you go, my God, did you spend any time with these people at all? Or did you just enjoy the very lavish accommodations they gave you as a guest? Did you go to a farm? Did you harvest rice? Did you eat scorpion? Did you spend any time with the people at all? And well, no, they chaperone you. So you didn't. So you spent 10 years swallowing their Kool-Aid, and you came back talking about how ridiculous and inept they are. That's what you'll hear them say. Oh, they're so abusive the way they teach their children. No, sorry, that's not the truth. All right. That's all you ever hear is mockery and scorn. I've heard not one favorable, positive sort of narrative from any kind of public official or even educator who went there and spent significant time, 5 to 10 years. Not one positive. And I'm like, wow, you guys, do you have proof that all these things happen? Because at this point, it was like, you better show me proof. It's horrible. All of that, none of that is lost on Chinese nationals. None of that is lost when the Chinese students come over so excited to come to American universities. And they get told by professors every day that they can't think for themselves, that they're not allowed to talk well of their own nation because it's all just propaganda, that they've been brainwashed.
No, that's got to be.
Can you imagine? No,
No,
and I'm not. I have the receipts for that. I have complaints. I have papers.
Well, no, I
have
agree with you.
everything. Yeah, I don't know what to do about this, but China is a threat. China will be a threat. Is America knew it was going to get these subs to Australia. It was a matter of time. It knew that it would piss off France, and here's what it did that made me feel really good. They had the common sense not to tell anybody for once. Hallelujah. It was 1 hour, and France went, get down, Chacon, you whopper of donkey butts, I can't believe you did. Oh, what? China's a threat? Yeah. No, you know what? Yes, we were shocked, but now it's all about moving forward. And I was like, yeah, you got the memo, you idiots. You don't have Merkel anymore. You had better play ball. This is Biden. Okay, not Obama, not Trump, not Bush.
That's true.
Biden plays football, asshole. You're going to have to get on your A game because China is a threat. So is Russia. Dude, deal with it. Australia should have been our ally first.
Facts.
Then China would have been, we really need the westernmost gush. Could we be your son to the U.S. because you're friends with Australia? We would have been, we'd love to have you. Could you agree with a few rules first? Like, do not blow us up, right? Don't roll tax over any place we are. Try not funding Russia for a change. Oh, and guess what? I knew it, those sneaky Brits. Icing on a cake. Poor England. Once a great empire in its own right, largest fleet in history, leader of the industrial era, home of Shakespeare. Okay. And bad food and bad teeth. All right. Had a flag everywhere. Had Hong Kong. Pissed off China royally. Pissed off Africa royally. Pissed off India royally. Pissed off America royally. Somehow Canada kept the crown. So did Australia. Pissed off Australia royally. Enemy of all. Most hated empire in the history of the world. And they shrink. They go, immigration, we don't want immigrants. We're exiting from the EU. I'm like, wow, are you guys some bad faith actors? Holy crap, you suck beans. Bullshit. Oh, and you won't disarm? You actually created more nukes? You and Israel. Lovely. You idiots. Put your pint down. Dry out. Get a clue. What do? Immediately. Exit. Yes. Ireland and Scotland going, well. So how about that independence? Because, in 5 years, you won't exist anymore. We believe you'll dissolve in the next 10 years.
Wow. And
I went, yeah, maybe it's about time. Pax Britannica, next to go is Pax Americana. Fantastic, can't wait.
Possibly.
And as a last gasp, wheezing breath, what does the U.S. do? Biden goes, so England. Yeah, no, you're not United Kingdom. Just stop saying that. England, all right? All right? You lost the crown, all right? England, you're holding all of our taxes. That's about $9 billion or so. Here's what we're going to do. You, because you have nukes, me, right, are going to build some nuke subs, and we're going to hand them to Australia, who's now our best friend, AUKUS. And we're going to make sure they have nuclear submarines because China's a bitch. What do you say? England went, right-ho, sign me up. Had not missed a beat. And they were all snickering and giggling. There's been a great deal of snickering and giggling and uber confidence from the beginning, since 2015, 2016. I'm talking to nationals, and I'm going, why are you guys so smug?
Well,
what have you cooked up? and it was, and I was told, I was finally given one of the cryptic, wait for it. It won't be above ground. That's all I can say. And I was just like, and I'm thinking energy. No, it was
deal was in the works for a while. So,
well, it also made Australia do this. Adani wanted a coal manufacturing, which is by and large also going to be producing diesel.
Right.
All right. So the idea was he was going to have the plant where all these diesel submarines, right, of course, would get instant refueling. Of course, it would destroy the Great Barrier Reef. So Australia suddenly burst into flame, right, exactly into the area where Adani was going to build a coal plant. And it was very suspicious. Everybody said Adani did this. The outrage was, oh my God. And then it just silence. And I'm like, all right.
You're talking about that massive fire that
just burned.
Yeah.
What's going? I was like, wait a minute, maybe that was sabotage. They stopped the plant. All right.
I don't know. I don't know.
Big mystery. And then all of a sudden we get the big reveal. Okay, so Australia does not need a coal processing plant any further. There will be no Adani. It's not necessary. So that allowed them to put India in its place, because India, according to China, is getting way too big for its britches.
Well, of course, because it's gonna be challenging China.
Right. So they in the East played chess. I love that. They play Go and they play chess. And it's very Vulcan. You have to have 10 brains to do it. I get it. Great. What do they play in the West? Fucking football. Okay. Fucking football. Okay. And it's the kind of football that, when you lose, that's it. You're effed. So it's called the fucking. And so that's what the West does. They just kick your flag off. They king of the hill. Kick the flag down. Boom. Right. Russia blows up the hill and roll. America just comes in, steals the flag, snaps it in half, goes, fetch. Now, it's my hill. I don't know. I can't stop laughing. It's probably a horrific thing. But well played, Biden. Damn, I didn't see that coming. I could not believe you had that much discretion. And poor little England, though. Okay, what they can do, why do they matter? They're in active nuclear production. They built nuclear submarines to carry their nukes so they could launch from carriers. Brilliant. They've been a tiny country that needed a big fleet forever, so they never let go of that.
Right.
The other party,
an island nation, it's going to have be able to protect itself from the sea.
The little island is going to supply the power for the big island. The other nation, they routinely sniff butts and play nice, and this might explain Biden's attitude toward Israel. Israel also never de-escalated its nuclear program because clearly it felt like it needed it. All right. Listen, though, what that means is Israel, the coastal, and then in Mediterranean. And I mean, if you see where it's located, okay, it's also right on that pathway into the Indian Ocean, which is critical, which leads. Okay, it's perfectly on the route. And then England, UK, all of its nations in the industry of producing nuclear something or other. All of them being the new manufacturing locations, not China, obviously, for what the U.S. wants to do with its buddy Australia. You get it? Okay, so those are the deals. That was and they had signed them all before they announced it.
Well, yeah.
What a move!
They
blitzed.
That's the best thing about this. But I think we've covered this topic. Yes, I think we've covered this topic really extensively. If you're just now joining the program here, this is the Crowdsourced Politics News Roundup. We go live typically every Thursday from 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time to about 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time or so. If you like what you hear, go ahead and smash that like button for the algos, follow wherever you're watching this. It really does help us out. And if you want to get your questions answered on air, you can either join the Discord, which the link will be coming at you shortly, or it's in the top right hand corner or the top of the YouTube. The Discord link is coming at you, but we do have call-in shows. These are all call-in shows, so go ahead and find that where the link is coming from now. And then I'll just do this too because the thing is not working. But yes, we have to continue on. So that handles the international section. So one of the things that we are seeing here domestically right now is the Justice for January 6th rally. We're going to cover this pretty quickly. So the far right Justice for J6 rally at the Capitol last Saturday turned out to be a big nothing burger. After much coverage leading up to the event, there were as many as about 500 people or so in attendance, along with a large law enforcement presence. But it is unknown how many of the 500 were counter protesters or so. If you looked at news media or Dylan Burns's coverage or any of the other streamers that covered this, you would see a swarm of media people trying to talk to the few protesters that were kind of straggled about by themselves, and it wasn't really that big of a thing. There were 4 arrests in connection with the rally, but nothing too major here. It was done in order to bring justice for the people they consider political prisoners, for the people that were part of the insurrection. The organizer of the rally, Matt Brainerd of the organization Look Ahead America, refers to the rioters in jail as political prisoners, but claims that he does not support any person who committed violence on January 6th because he believes that most of the people that are in prison were just there as protesters. So, Yudi, what are your little thoughts on this?
Immediately, I have one sentence to wrap this up.
1 second.
Since I was a journalist and I know what happens when the media tries to milk something. So it was a big nothing burger. Maybe 500 folks showed up.
Right.
Okay. Now, but what did the media say? Hundreds of protesters turned out, with heavy guard presence. And I'm like, you so tried to turn this into something it wasn't. Heavy guard presence, those guards, I guarantee all of them took shifts on their days off to be there because they were like, oh, I remember all y'all. Look me in the face. So I wish they had interviewed the guards. But look at the media trouble. Hundreds of protesters. I'm like, no, it was a nothing burger. All right. Nothing burgers are free. Okay. You could put them in a blender because that's what your brain's going to be like after you eat that Kool-Aid. I could believe the media was so irresponsible. I was like, desperate. You're desperate. This isn't going to happen. That's all you need on this situation.
No, I 100% agree with that. I do hate how the media is so interested in sensationalization in order to get ad revenue or clicks or what have you, whatever reason it is. Also, one of the things that I hate a lot about modern media is the modern media, I should say just media in general, is the
MSM.
MSN, not this program. We will call out bullshit. We have journalistic ethics, but we like the truth, right?
Oh, truth to power, okay?
Yes.
Power
Snaps
to the people. Crowd sourced truth. That's what CSP is offering you.
Look at that. That's a good one. But
mainstream media is not longer functioning and knows it. It has ceased to be relevant. I'm so sorry, journos, but you all know that is the truth.
Now, the thing that I was saying that I don't like about them is the insistence on both citing every issue. They try to make it seem like there is two sides to every issue, but that doesn't mean every side is true or relevant or pertinent, whatever you want to call it like that. It doesn't mean that you have to give it a voice. And I think that in order to see being impartial, because reasons, I guess the establishment, MSM, absent, Fox News and MSNBC and anybody else on the right, pretty much, they want to see like they're unbiased. And so they'll drum up both sidisms and make it seem like there's more contention with issues than there actually is. And that has detrimental effects. And I don't like it.
I want to take one opportunity.
Go for it.
Since this is a newscast, okay. Anybody that tells you there are two sides is lying, because they're the ones invested in the conflict, and they really can't handle more than two moving pieces. There are no sides. Everyone's screwed. Everyone's involved. Everyone's responsible. There are no two sides. Shrinking it down to binaries,
right?
You're lying. It's not how it is. Unbiased reporting will not accept a simple dichotomy. It's always digging and going, that is far too convenient. No. That and that, they're like pimples. All that crap under, that's what I'm going for. All the crap under. And let those two just blow themselves out. There are no two sides. If you hear it, reject it and dig deeper.
No, what you said, I can't expand upon that anymore.
Always you were an analyst, so you I'm hoping you know exactly what I mean. Anytime you've been handed a simple scenario, you go, nah. what's behind this? Okay. Anyway.
That's true. Being an analyst has definitely given me pause, and I have to check myself to make sure I'm not getting into conspiracy brain. So
right.
with some things.
Ew.
But speaking of both side isms, we are going to talk about next about the Biden agenda and the budget reconciliation bill and the debt limit and the not continuing resolution and the budget. Things that are coming up very fast. We're looking at I believe it's for the budget, the debt ceiling, that's the 20th or something like that, right? Not the 20th. I'm sorry. It's already past the 20th. It's next month. It's coming up fast. I don't remember the date though. Budget debt ceiling. Please have the date in my notes. Where is it?
It's past the 15th.
Yeah, it's I think it's around the last 20th of October or so. But these are things.
It's before trick or treat.
Yes, it is before Halloween. So these are things that we need to talk about. These are very important to the economy, to the nation political structure, etc. So for those that might not know, we have in the United States has two budget processes. It has the budget itself and then the debt ceiling. If you pass it in the United States, if it passes the budget, that doesn't automatically raise the debt ceiling or the total cap on the amount of debt that the government can borrow. So if there isn't enough taxes generating or revenue generating things in the budget, then it can hit the debt ceiling, and then the government will no longer be allowed legally to borrow money to fund its obligations. What this means is that if we do not raise the debt ceiling limit, people are not going to get paid. And the people that aren't going to get paid are going to end up causing, it's going to be suffering from that, because it could be anything from Social Security, Medicaid, Medicare, contractors, employees not being paid, etc., to other governments and the like. And they will cause a downgrading of U.S. credit, which is going to have cascading effects across the entire economy. So that is one issue. The other issue is the budget. The government needs to fund itself. Without a budget, it doesn't know how much money to borrow or to spend. It can't fund itself without a budget. So if there is not a budget agreed to, then we have what is called a government shutdown. And that leads to not the same cascading effects, because there's different things the government does to play around with the money or whatever. But it does lead to people not being paid. And that includes U.S. servicemen overseas and in the United States, and any government worker, period. Things like national parks and museums and the like get shut down, etc. Might even impact Social Security checks going out if it has to be physical checks, because you don't have the people to deliver them. Not deliver them, but to process them, rather, because the USPS, the U.S. Postal Service, is separate from it. But yeah, so Yudi, go ahead. Give me some thoughts about this. What do you think is going on here?
The GOP is going to force another shutdown because they're just petulant.
It's interesting.
I've been reading. We addressed before Biden's agenda. I was like, ooh, but this is, again, he's brilliant at saying one thing that's low. He undercommits and he over delivers like Scotty off of Star Trek. And he's
That's
brilliant.
true.
I'm like, dude, keep doing that. Hope to God you know what you're doing. Keep doing that. Oh, that's perfect.
Biden actually read The Art of the Deal, unlike Trump.
That's even better poetic justice. However, he had the 1 point, whatever, he had the lower of the two, was already passed by the time I read that. And I went,
Do you mean the infrastructure bill?
he got the lesser of the two amounts.
Yeah.
And I went,
the infrastructure bill did pass the Senate, but it hasn't passed the House yet.
the Senate went, yeah, but it'll pass.
Yeah,
so
it's going to pass. It's just a matter of when.
So the media again, and I'm like, good move. Leave them out in the cold.
Yeah.
They were again pitching a fight. The Democrats, the Republicans, they're rubbing their little paws, and then they're gonna, and then it passed, and nobody told us. And I'm like, that's right. You're not gonna say crap until you get the memo. Okay. Good. I'm like, wow, what is good? You play ball, dude. I'm kind of impressed. Anyway.
Yeah.
What does it cover? I needed to cover the infrastructure. Brilliant. What about the student loans being canceled? The
so the student
Medicare for all. Not sure if that's financially feasible. Not sure about that. But where is all that? Also, the funding for the counter extremism research. Those three, which is national security. Free education, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then I think there was childcare, 5. There were 5 things that go with the 3.7 trillion.
Yes.
I think that because the GOP are inhuman, and that's their whole spiel, that they're going to collude whenever what it is benefits the general welfare. And I think that that's when their true monster is going to show. That they will ruthlessly stop all the funding because then people are homeless again. That they will I don't know who these damaged monsters are. Jesus.
Well,
but that's what I think is going to happen.
Yeah, as far as what's coming with the GOP, it's really just a power play, in my opinion. They definitely
want to hurt people.
I wouldn't say all of them. I would say there is a sector of them that doesn't like poor people in general and wish that they would just basically go away, or be subservient and do what God tells them and let Christians do stuff. I don't know. It's fucking weird, right?
What are they even doing in office?
Right, exactly, right. No government is good government is their motto, and it's asinine. Honestly, it's just fucking asinine.
Yeah, except for that $380K a year you now make for life.
Yeah, after
as a senator,
20 years or something. Yeah, but what it is a power play. If they give Biden this giant win, then there's no way they can really push to have him not get reelected, and it will help Democrats get elected. They don't really care about doing the correct work. They care about maintaining power because of ideological reasons. And most of their ideology is culturally based. So it all comes around that kind of thing.
Whose culture? Oh, look, I thought Americans didn't have any culture.
Oh, that's not. Yeah.
So whose culture? Honestly.
No, it's definitely a Christian evangelical.
Oh, that's their ideology.
Nation state. Most
so ideological
people. Yeah, ideological. Most of the people.
They don't they have a nation state, but they don't want indigenous people to have a nation state. That's what they accuse us every time we say land back. And I'm like, because you're also a hypocrite. And you tend not to be so rigorous when it comes to deductive reasoning. But that's okay.
It's true. A lot of people actually are bad at inductive reasoning too. That's been my thing on that.
A lot of people can't reason at all.
Yeah, that's so with the 3.57 trillion, $3.5 trillion budget. There's a lot of disagreement within the Democratic caucus about how big that package should be and what should be in it. Joe Manchin, Kirsten Sinema, among other people, not just them, but those are two big ones because they're in the Senate. There's people in the House, the moderates in the House, about 19 moderates or so in the House that are against the amount of spending that are in that bill. And media is pushing this hard. There is a quote unquote deadline to pass the $1.2 trillion infrastructure bill by September 27th, which is next Monday. But the progressives are trying to make their own little power play with that and not pass it because they want both packages to be passed. If they fear that if they give the moderates the win, the moderates won't come back out and give them the win. So they want them to pass both at the same time. And they're probably right about that. They're probably 100% correct about that. I do not expect a lot of moderates to join on board unless they get what they want. My thing is, from the entire time that we've been talking about this on this program, almost every week or every other week at least, is that I believe that $3.5 trillion package will be whittled down to about $2 to $2.5 trillion, which makes the entire package together, the 1.2 to we'll say 2.5 on the high end, that's 3.7 plus another $500 billion for infrastructure directly related to chip manufacturing would bring it to roughly $4.2 trillion total. I think that's what's going to happen.
I think it's not just the amount that tends to be largely irrelevant. What's going to happen is what people, even when you know that you're familiar with this, I don't think people are quite connecting the dots. Everybody knows what it means when someone says, "I'm sorry, the program was cut." It happens on television. It happens when we cancel a podcast. And so what happens is there are all these programs that the Department of Labor, et cetera, and Interior, et cetera, and all the departments slave over tirelessly for years, decades sometimes, trying to get these programs through for general welfare, which is what the freaking budget is for. And so this is the funding of these programs, not just the maintenance of existing programs, but all the new stuff, all the stuff we wanted and voted for is in that budget. It is. And the GOP is going to ruthlessly redline anything that looks like a progressive program, anything that looks like what the people need or want, especially if they've been fighting for it for a long time. That's what they're going to do. And so the amount isn't relevant. What's relevant is for you to look at that budget, examine carefully these programs, and watch what ends up on the cutting floor. Watch what's cut.
No, for sure.
If you want to understand what sort of government you're under right now, that's all you need to know. So I'm real keen on exactly what is the language of that budget. When do we see it? When do we see the programs? Is that transparent? I'm sure it is. So where's that where I can access that? I would love to have a stream where I'll be happy because my mom is actually the head of the Department of Labor, the administrative executive. So I've watched her bring these budgets home every year. And I would love to break that budget down for people if they don't quite understand how it works. So I want to get my hands on all of it just to see it.
Yeah, and it's still being worked out in Congress, which is why the Monday, the 27th deadline is likely not to hold. I feel the moderates are probably going to lose this one. I feel like because Nancy Pelosi is good at whipping, and she can whip it good. So. Oh man, I just throwing myself so bad.
Whip it good.
But yeah, so I don't expect the moderates to win on this one. One of the interesting things in regards to the debt ceiling limit is that Mitch McConnell appears to be trying to establish a quote unquote new rule saying that because the Democrats control both houses of Congress and the presidency, it is theirs and their alone responsibility to ensure that the debt ceiling is not reached. And it is their fault if it gets reached, and they will not vote to increase the debt limit, leaving Democrats with the bag. Now, this is bullshit, right?
Yeah, but that's McConnell.
Yeah, this is McConnell. This is McConnell saying this. McConnell
He has no limit.
Oh, yeah.
To his BS.
Oh, yeah.
The only thing that has a limit is how far his neck can come out of his shell.
Oh man, let me. Oh, okay. I'm gonna bring it back.
Right.
I'm gonna bring it back. I'm gonna try to get my Mitch McConnell voice in. Now I'm quoting him here.
Made you laugh.
All right. Let me be clear. Hold on. Let me make it perfectly. No, that's not how it goes. Hold on. Let me make it perfectly clear.
There we go.
The country must never default. The debt ceiling will need to be raised. But who does that? No, I can't do it. I can't maintain it. But who does that depends on who the American people elect. McConnell told Punchbowl News on Tuesday, acknowledging that the vote for a policy outcome, he says, he doesn't want to occur. Because Democrats control the House and both branches of Congress, his argument goes that they alone are responsible for safeguarding the government's creditworthiness and preventing potential economic calamity. So, like I said, so he's trying to pass the buck and make it to where the Republicans aren't seen as the bad guys at all here. We know how well that worked in the 90s and in 2016, 2017. The American people don't want to see the default. They don't want to see the government shut down, and it's likely the Republicans are going to get blamed for it because they're the ones that don't care about government, right?
Do you know, one of the problems is in the Bill of Rights and Constitution itself. It unfortunately says that, the House and the Senate can be constructed, and then it gerrymanders. It gives you the numbers, right? So many from each state, and yada, 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 and all the seats, and yada, yada, yada. And then it unfortunately says they may meet to conduct the business of governance in any so manner they choose. Big mistake, because McConnell is writing that. He's literally just reinventing the 10 Commandments. It says right here, any manner that we choose, and bucking any kind of tradition and overriding anything that ever was efficient or made sense. So it's all about his power and that party's power. And it's horrible. And that seems to be their cooked up little kooky agenda, is like you say, it's a power play, and that's all they're interested in. I think they're not even competent, or qualified to hold the seats that they hold. It's another problem. But he literally leads his side of the house by inventing any kind of rule, because it's like a good Russian tactic is just to throw the snake on the table in the middle of a wedding. And you can't stop now. You got to keep going with the freaking snake on the table just to see who's going to run. And hope everyone gets bit. Like, that's the kind of crap he pulls. And so he doesn't have the logic and the reasoning or the knowledge that you would expect him to have. He has this one little, he's a one-trick pony.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter what you have, he's going to throw the snake on the table. And then he's going to hold himself a good old-fashioned tent revival.
No, that's 100% true. And if you want to find out, I know it's bad. It's true, but it's also terrible. But we actually did an episode about Mitch McConnell. So if you want to check it out and learn more about Mitch McConnell and his history and what it is, check out the episode 12, Mitch Master McConnell, on your favorite streaming service. We're on every single streaming service that pretty much exists for podcasts. So go ahead and check out episode 12, Mitch Master McConnell.
May I make the privilege of animating it into a cartoon, which I'd be happy to do for you, so I could show you what I could actually do as a producer for once?
Oh, yeah. Well, I don't see why. I mean, it would be,
alrighty,
it'd be interesting. Yeah, let's do it.
Google Drive the VOD, and you're going to be pretty happy with the outcome.
Awesome. Awesome. So I
Okey-dokey.
think we covered the budget ceiling. We didn't really cover the budget, but the budget is in reconciliation. Without it, blah blah blah. We covered the debt ceiling, we covered the infrastructure bill, we covered the budget reconciliation. So now it is time to move on to more things U.S. domestic related. And I'm sad to say that we have to do immigration.
Why is
Especially
that?
well, because it's the way that things are going on right now is pretty depressing, especially with the deportation of Haitian migrants, asylum seekers, and refugees, as well as the quote unquote crisis on the U.S. Mexican border,
Where I spent 12 years. So, okay, now I can really talk.
Yes.
No, you've said enough. I'm like,
No, it's fine. I love it.
I tell you what I want to do. Cypher, if you'll talk, and if I know it's the truth and accurate, I can verify it. I'm just going to give you a double thumbs.
Okay.
If it's shaky, I'm going to go like that.
Okay, that's fine. I just realized we didn't have our names on here. Whoops. All right. So let's see. Thousands of migrants and refugees have gathered under the bridge that connects the Del Rio in Texas and Mexico. Wait. Oh, God.
If you spell it, I'll tell you how to say it.
Ciudad. Cuidad?
Cuidad.
Cuidad? Acuna.
Ciudad.
Ciudad Acuna, creating a makeshift camp with few basic services in intense heat in the latest border emergency facing Joe Biden. The mayor of Del Rio, Bruno Lorenzo, said that as of early Thursday evening, this was last week, 10,503 people were camping under the Del Rio International Bridge, up from 8,200 in the morning. Food and water had been scarce, about 20 people told Reuters. And temperatures have risen to 99 degrees, 37 degrees Fahrenheit. Reuters witnessed hundreds of people wading through the Rio Grande River and back into Mexico to stock up on essentials that they say they were not receiving at the U.S. border. They are mostly Haitians, with Cubans, Venezuelans, and Nicaraguans also present. Border Patrol is overwhelmed, the Val Verde County Sheriff Joe Frank Martinez told the Texas Tribune. They just can't process them fast enough, so there's a backlog of these individuals underneath the bridge. They're not detained, they're just gathered there waiting for their turn to get processed. Fast forward to this week, we can see a number of things. One of the things I want to put up here is this image. Make sure I can grab it. I'm pretty sure it's the one. Oh, well, that's not that one. Let me get the right image because they're not named. This one? No. Which one is it? 90. Sorry, I'm having a hard time grabbing the right image because they're web links directly to the images. There we go. And there we go. And then, so this is the border. This is the bridge. You can see that there's a makeshift camp here, and this is kind of showing you the scale of what we are experiencing here. I can actually zoom in a bit so that you can see it better. But yeah, so that's what we're dealing with at the border, or we're dealing with at the border. Since then, since last week, there have been roughly 1,400 Haitians flown back to Haiti, and as well as a quicker processing, at least turning them to family members while their asylum status is being processed. They're being told to report back within about 60 days to immigration services, to court, what have you, and the like. So in addition to this, there's been this viral image going around of the Border Patrol using what appears to be whips and lassos to, for lack of a better term, wrangle the refugees and get them into custody. And you can see that
some of them have been cited or indicted.
Yes. And so this is that famous image. I'm sure you've seen it if you've been anywhere on the internet as of late. And some of these people being the Border Patrol agents have been, like Yudi said, indicted, fired, put on suspension, what have
Those
you.
are trained by Joe Arpaio, by the way.
Oh,
He was head of training. These were the same agents that were also sent, kind of like us mercenaries, to Portland. Do you remember when the
don't.
BLM protests started?
Oh, right. Yeah,
And they sent
Border
the
Patrol
ones that
people.
were like bagging them like game and kidnap. Okay, those are all trained by Joe Arpaio. Also, so was the Australian Border Patrol.
I didn't know about the Australian one.
Yeah. He spent
Joe
a lot of
Arpaio's
time in Australia.
huge piece of shit. Like, that man probably needs to be
I
charged
lived-
with human rights violations.
He was.
Well, I mean,
I lived
not
on the
pardoned.
border and very near his quote, his summer camp is what they called it. And
Right.
we were constantly on the border giving water and food, leaving it out for crossers, and also advocating to get some of the young men in his detention camp released.
Yeah.
So that whole time I lived in right on the border, it was shit. I don't remember a day where it wasn't the case that thing wasn't just sitting there, and that the treatment of the crossers wasn't what it was. I can't remember a day. Yeah. We even tried to advocate for the Border Patrol to say in indigenous terms, there's a special role for someone who does that. We did a lot of cultural training with them. We did a lot of community outreach with them. It was very successful. The Border Patrol, ironically, were the only ones who accepted the multicultural training. Well, damn it. Joe Arpaio comes in, acting like he's some African colonial explorer, some South African Transvaal king. This crap he did, sick POS, holy. Then he goes to court and he's threatening everybody. I'm coming for your sons. It's your son's next. You're not going to stop me. You're not going to put me out of business. And I was just like, you got some karma. And when that happens, all of us are going to do this, just like you told us to. No one will help you.
Yeah. What?
Anyway, so he trained these Border Patrolmen, all of them. That was his training style and program all the way to Australia. He went to Canada. RCMP's doing the same. It's telltale. He has a telltale. Wrangle them like some kind of cowboy. Yeehaw. And look at how he's leaning over his horse. Got him by the back of the neck like he's going to rope himself a hog. Jesus. Like he's just picking up a doggy.
True.
A Haitian might not ever have seen a horse in his life. Can you imagine? Except on television.
Yeah.
That's never mind.
It's a huge problem with the Border Patrol, and this is something that has since the founding of DHS, the ICE and CBB during the Bush administration. They they wanted to quickly recruit people. And so during the build-up phases of CBB and ICE, the amount of the level of requirements, the end screening was basically non-existent.
It came down to this: I'm from Texas. I know how to tie up a hog, and I love a rodeo. Sign me up. I won't be deputy. I mean, like, that's it.
No. I mean, as Mimi as that is, Yudi is pretty much spot on. They recruited previous militia members. The Minutemen is what they were called. I think the Minutemen still exist, but when you're able to join the government and do the job with the government's behest, why would you join a militia doing the same thing? We can just be on the border and get paid thousands of dollars a year, or tens of thousands of dollars a year, I should say, to do this. I mean, Border Patrol agents make good money. Like they're solidly middle class people as far as the amount of money they get paid, especially if they're out there on their own and one of the border the outpost. Might not be upper middle class wages starting out, but quickly move up into the amount of money you're making. And honestly, ICE and Customs Border Patrol have a racism problem, and they need a cultural enema, much like a cultural enema. They need to have all the grossness taken out. They need to be. It's one of those situations.
Hold on.
Yeah, go ahead.
Let's just say a high colonic.
A high colonic. Okay.
Let's leave it at that.
But they need to
I don't want my culture going into the black hole of emotional need.
They do need to have they need to start over. Well, people can argue whether or not, we need Custom Border Patrol or ICE even in existence. If you're going to have immigration laws, you're going to need somebody that's going to enforce immigration laws. And so there's got to be some sort of enforcement mechanism. You just got to make sure that enforcement mechanism isn't inundated with racist shitbags. And this isn't to say that everybody that's a member of ICE or a member of CBP are racist or hate, immigrants or anything like that. The problem does exist. I can't tell you how big that problem is, but it's sizable enough given everything that comes out of the news media in regards to these things. With the Haitians, a lot of the Haitians are reporting they were called racial slurs. Journalists on the ground were saying that they heard this as well. It is big enough that it passes that barrier of silence that exists within the culture, within the for lack of a better term, good old boy network of keeping the blue wall of silence, if you will. So it's a problem and it needs to be dealt with.
Haitians are, traditionally they're related with my own band. Like, if you knew them personally, if you had that kind of historic relationship, we say you mess with them and it has some bad mojo. They have spiritual clout, let's put it that way, and influence is all over the world. And I'm like, don't piss them off. You really don't know who they are. But I think that's all that, let's push it into a Rahoa. Let's just treat colored people and minorities and women and gays and disabled people and elderly people as horridly as possible, because that'll just piss them all off. And then we'll have the great awakening, the great reckoning. We'll just provoke all. I mean, these are deliberate, contemptuous, heinous acts that nobody in their right mind, and they do it. They make sure the camera's on. They're signaling. Mm-hmm. Like that cop that punched that woman without provocation. The other one that smashed another woman's face. There was that dude in one of the protests that punched that woman for no reason. Looked at the camera to make sure. You watching? Kapow! All of this is, I'm so horrible and badass. I can do anything I want. I'm just gonna beat up a little girl. And I'm like, you're also so pathetic and spineless. It won't be long for your punk ass. So. Mm-hmm. Karma sometimes is instant. All of that has been going on since 2015. Right? Actually, I saw it start in 2012. One of the QAnons thought the Mayan prophecy was coming, so they sort of showed themselves and then kind of went like groundhog. Oops, it's still not time, and went underground. And I was like, they didn't go away. They just popped up prematurely. Now they feel like fools. So now they're going to come back. You'll see them again, but they're going to be utterly ridiculous. And here we saw the shaman. Oh, looking like Ted Nugent on an acid trip. I'm like, fantastic. Fantastic. Now you have a career. Anyway, all of that behavior is not a guy doing something badly. It's not inept, corrupt, it's a systematic process.
True.
And it isn't just let's make peasants out of everybody and let's go back to slave days because the South will rise again. It isn't just that. It's this extremist ideology in the racial holy war, helter-skelter. The thing Charles Manson was accused of, which actually wasn't his idea, was another person's idea.
Yep. It's a shit show. It really is. We're just at about time, but we still have a lot to cover. So let's do a palate cleanser with some news of the weird, and then we'll go on to one other kind of thing. So if you're just now joining the news roundup, I'm Cypher. This is Crowdsourced Politics News Roundup. We have a Discord. Join the Discord. We have a Facebook group called The Commons. If you do Facebook, join the Facebook group. If you don't, join the Discord. We're trying to expand. All things crowdsourced politics can be found in both of those groups. So please go ahead and join as you can. If it's your first time joining the program ever, then we like to do a little thing called the News of the Weird, where we cover something in the news that is culturally relevant or politically relevant, but it's kind of weird. And on tonight's episode, what we are going to show you all has to deal with Halloween costumes and the politicization and aestheticization of politics through costume. So let me go ahead and get this on the screen. That should
the LARPing of politics.
This. Right? Sexy Bernie Sanders outfit. So this is a I don't know if this counts as sexy.
Is her leg tattooed, or what's going on with her right leg?
It's a tattoo. Let's see if I can blow this up. I can't really blow it up. All right, there we go. All right, I should be able to more easily seen. So what is going on here with this the sexy Bernie costume is that, according to the costume description, the look is meant for you to be a viral internet meme. This political chairman costume comes with a gray coat, cozy mittens, and a face mask for a totally Insta-worthy moment. E-girl site Dolls Kill is hoping their version of Bernie Sanders' inaugural wear, dubbed at the Tricks N Treats once again asking costume set, will have a similar impact for its wearers. So they are hoping that dressing up as Bernie Sanders, but sexy, will.
Well,
hold on,
okay.
I gotta do that again because I was on the screen.
I will so buy that frock coat. That's
a nice frock. Yeah.
Is beautiful. I wouldn't wear it as a costume. It is very, very fashionable. Halston would be jealous. I would absolutely, in a heartbeat, with the gloves, it's gorgeous. So if that's their new fashion line, brilliant. It's beautiful. I will buy the F out of that and give 20 of them as gifts. It's absolutely gorgeous. I would so sport that. So I think it fails as a Halloween costume, but as somebody who had a design costume, I'm going to have to say it went haute couture. They overshot the mark.
I kind of agree with that. Yeah, go ahead.
I would, if I were you, I would buy that coat for a special gift for your wife because it's gorgeous.
It's funny you should mention that because she's always cold, and that looks cozy as fuck.
Wouldn't you guys to wear something inspired by Bernie? Like, he was so sweet, and everybody commenting in the chats as we watched inauguration, where he had his little gloves and his hair was blowing and he had his coat and he was all, I don't know, the love that was pouring out toward that old man in that coat. It was just one of those silent moments of love. It was so sweet. It was so sweet that it made people cry. It was like, I was like, wow, what's going on here? So it's a little bit of love. Love is warmth. So keep her warm and say, I love you. And after all, it was inspired by a man we had a great deal of affection for. And I think it's a beautiful, special gift. You're in politics, so you might as well. Be stylish.
You made a great argument, so I will probably end up getting this. Congratulations, whoever it was that made this.
Tell me what it's cost. I will pitch in and help buy the gift.
So if you want to look sexy chic as a Bernie Sanders, go ahead and check out.
You want to look Sanders chic.
Tricks N on the web and get your Bernie Sanders costume today. I think this just says that, as far as culture is concerned, I think we just try to make everything sexy, and politics is really in right now. A lot of people are super into politics. I mean, Twitch, us,
but it ain't.
You know.
It's not as sexy as a Bernie blazer. No.
And so
we need a logo.
Pop on it.
We need a badge that says Sandersky.
Yes.
I'm a Sandersky. Are you?
So we have enough time to cover one more story. We have on our little wrap up, Yudi, that we didn't cover. We have the Texas abortion bill, and we have labor. A little brief clip about labor, what's going on in the labor movement, labor jobs, numbers, etc. And I
would like to hear about labor.
All right. So Reuters reported today that the labor market is still on track for recovery despite a slight increase in jobless claims. The number of Americans filing... Go ahead.
Are you saying Reuters?
It should be Reuters. You're right.
Or Rutgers.
I'm saying Reuters.
I had to stop you because I've been trying to look it up and I go, I don't know who. I'm so stupid. What's Reuters?
Reuters.
Got it. Thank you. Okay, go ahead.
I am not hooked on phonics. I was taught whole word method of reading, and I have not heard it pronounced enough. So there it is. So say it again for me.
So Reuters has said.
Yes, Reuters has reported today that the labor market is still on track for recovery, despite a slight increase in jobless claims. The number of Americans filing new claims for unemployment benefits unexpectedly rose last week, boosted by surges in California and Virginia, but the underlying trend remains consistent with a steadily recovering labor market. The second straight weekly increase in jobless claims reported by the Labor Department on Thursday puzzled economists. Some pointed a finger at the wildfires in California, while others blamed Hurricane Ida, which devastated U.S. offshore energy production in late August. No. There was little conviction that ongoing COVID-19 infections, driven by highly contagious Delta variant of the COVID virus, were a factor. The 4-week moving average of claims, considered a better measure of labor market trends as it irons out week-to-week volatility, fell 750 to 335,750 last week. That was the lowest level since mid-March of 2020, when mandatory closures of non-essential businesses were enforced when the nation was slammed by the first wave of the coronavirus. Claims have dropped from a record 6.1 million in early April of 2020, but still remain above the 200 to 250,000 range that is viewed as consistent with healthy labor market conditions. So what do you think is causing this, Yudi?
It's simple. It's what everybody always misunderstands. Okay, so you have a situation like this. You close down, businesses have closed. You have savings. At first, everybody's willing to share. You can cut back. You can ride it out. You had a couple stimulus check came in, and all right, right after the moratorium on the rent ended, which wasn't but what? That was a month ago.
Right.
Right. I don't know if you understand how many homeless people there are now. In that turmoil, they've just now gotten around to filing. This isn't, I don't know why they stupidly always think that just something happened, causality, and then boom. And I'm like, no, we're not sheep. Okay, shit takes a while, all right? And in that turmoil and the savings, generally a portfolio is only going to last you a year or two, plus you did all this other crap, plus your family kicked you out because they were tired of you, because they ran out of it, all of that, all right? So you're just now seeing it's that they're at the end of the rope, and this was their option, which meant all that time they had avoided making those claims. Come on, government, get a clue. They've never been poor. They've never had the joy of a welfare Christmas.
Right.
So what it means is that the people that look at these numbers think it's a freaking baseball game and they're running it by statistics. They have no clue how shit affects people. That's what it actually all means. So they, at the end of the rope, they had no option but to file. And that's only if their state or their status allows them to.
Yeah,
now, what they
and
don't
that's a huge
understand
problem.
is how many other people would have filed if they had had the ability to file. What's happened to them? We don't know. Know why? They don't live nowhere no more. They can't get online. The internet's gone. You don't understand. Like, you just don't understand. That's what those numbers reflect, is that reality. It's not like they all cooked up, hey, let's all go file unemployment.
Right.
No.
Yeah, I
That's
do
what's
agree with
happening.
that. I think the lag makes sense. I also believe that it's partly caused by the readjustment of the supply chains, because if you don't have products to sell, then you're not going to have people to. You're not going to want to hire people to sell them, right? And we have
that's changed. There, have you looked at
but it's still so. That's what I was
job
going to get at.
opportunities now? Oh yeah, no, it's off the chart.
No. What, job opportunities are off the chart, you're saying?
Yes, and especially supply chain jobs.
Okay.
Absolutely, utterly off the chart. And yeah, they dropped the hiring standards through the floor.
Yes, that's true. The hiring standards have dropped immensely. Where there's especially among low wage jobs, there people are looking to hire teenagers and hire those kind of things. And then, as you're saying, in the supply chain, but what I was going to say is that despite the supply chain coming back, there's still a backlog caused by shipping. We're seeing the largest backlog of shipping containers in forever. But
that's why they need to hire more people.
There's like 50 ships waiting to come in to deliver goods, and they've been in a holding pattern for like 2 weeks.
That's why they're hiring.
Right. So they're hiring. So it's being adjusted, but it's taking more time to adjust than maybe economists would have anticipated. At least people at the Fed. It's been let me double check that. Shipping,
Look, I hate to say this. The government can ruin your life overnight with one bad decision.
Container.
But you want to recover from anything they've done, and you think it's going to happen in 2 weeks, you're off your rocker.
Oh, no, I was saying like the ships. So 65 cargo ships have been forced to queue two of America's biggest ports in the latest sign of supply chain disruptions hitting U.S. And I think that this has been going on for 2 weeks. Not that it's going to be resolved in 2 weeks. But no,
they're backlogged. Let's face it. What did they expect? I think that's incredibly successful given the odds. It should have been U.S.'s recovery of Corona super accelerated. It's baffling everybody. I think it would have been 1 billion times worse. It was a test of what the supply chain and infrastructure in this country can do. I know that the Air Force has the finest supply chain system in the world in history. Sure. I know they stepped in and advised because they had to, and they were like, we'll handle it. We'll just put some of our people on it, whatever. They actually stepped in. They stepped right up to bat. They were like, excuse me, we got this. We do know how to ship things. So they did. And then I guess now all the major shipping, freighting companies, Amazon, there are 1.2 million job openings with Amazon. It happened 2 days ago. They started. Yeah. All warehousing, shipping, and delivery. Wow.
So we're on the cusp of a boom, honestly.
If you want a job, you're going to be able to find a job that you can do with the hours that you can handle. But you gotta do it now, before the real competition happens. So right now they've done things like this. No, we will no longer run your credit. Hallelujah. No, you don't have to answer ethnic questions. There it is. You're hired. 3, you want to come into this program? No driving enhancements needed on your driver's license. Screw it. We'll just train you to deliver ice cream. We don't care. Just take the job, please. Right? You want to come into academia, even college programs? No GRE required. You know what? F you. It took me months to study for that. Anyway, No GRE required. You don't need the PhD to be the university professor anymore. That's brilliant. That right there, if they keep that, that's going to change the world, because you brought your intellectuals back. I mean, no, they've dropped all that BS. They've dropped all this stuff they used to use to discriminate. Also, overnight, the Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Initiative sprung up overnight into every corporation, which is now desperate. And I was just like, you need help in dealing with minorities. So you're going to hire an expert like me to tell you how to do that. That's what you can say. Okay, I cost X. Can you afford that? Because if you don't, it's your ass. So anyway,
Well,
that is what is going on. I just spent a week deep diving,
nice,
applying to everything to see what I would get as a response. I'm very curious, and I'm like, oh, look at this. Oh, look at this. Oh, look at that. I have a list. It's fabulous. That's what's actually happening right now.
Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. Makes a lot of sense.
For the first time, for a couple of weeks, 3 weeks, a month, 6 weeks, they can't afford to be racist for the first time. They can't afford to be misogynistic for the first time. It's a very narrow window of opportunity. Everybody, even if you don't need a job, go and apply and get one anyway. If they hire you, just pass it off to someone else. I'm serious. This will be the only time in your life. And then it will not last long.
No, I don't think it'll last. I don't think it'll last long, but we are in this weird kind of demographic shift as Gen Z and millennials move into prime age working and buying houses and all that stuff. So I don't know. I think we're set up for boom times, to be honest. But
I think it's because the young people will almost be able to, with their parents' help and their friends' help, they'll be able to acquire those fixed assets, those hard assets, very young. It used to be, kid, don't worry about a mortgage till you're 30. No, let him buy his house now, Dad.
No, especially now with the interest rates as low as they are. Shit.
He won't make it to 30. The prices that people are selling their houses out because they know they can't rent them because of COVID stuff, they're getting them at absolute rock bottom. Get it now. Screw your housing bubbles. Don't play the real estate market. Just get the thing. Sit in it. Secure yourselves, especially the Zoomers.
Yeah. I would say that houses right now are a bit overvalued, but that's starting to dissipate depending on the market. So yeah, I would say it's not going to get better though. Like it's going to get more expensive.
Here's what the brokers are doing. Okay. So if your house is $70K, disputably, the broker will list it at 90 anyway, making the propaganda of the house market, whatever, as if it were a stock market. They make up. It's a myth. It's a myth. Your crap old house is not worth no damn 100,000. Trust me.
No,
right?
but
your broker's gonna list it at 90. Right? It's not true. He'll sell at 70.
Gotcha.
So what you got to do is, yes, you're going to have to deal with a broker because the broker's desperate for their pinch.
Yeah.
So they want it to go for 90 because they get paid double because they haven't been able to sell properties for 2 years. They're out of work too. I think they're pieces of shit. But this is the reality. So don't be discouraged when you see a listing price. Go for it. Call a broker. Make a deal. You'll be surprised. You'll be surprised because the property owner never set that price. The listing agent did because they got a cut with the broker. The broker can't get in the way. If the owner says it's 70, let it go at 70. There's nothing they can throw a fit, but there's nothing they can do. So ignore the listing price. Make the call. If it's something you want, you really want, make the call. Put your bid in, bargain it. The broker would be happy to turn around and take your business for another property too. They really need their money back, right? That's what's actually going on. So go ahead.
Yeah. No, I can agree with that. I do think that houses are going to go up in value as they tend to do. But that's morely because I think more people are going to get into quote unquote the market and buy more housing. But I am sad to say that we are out of time. So we've been streaming for about 2 hours and this is a wrap up. everybody. I greatly appreciate everybody that watched us. If it wasn't for y'all, we would be just a couple of people shouting into the void that is the internet. If you liked what you heard, and we know you did because you stayed with us until now, go ahead and smash that like button.
Smash
For
it.
the algos, it really does help us out. Just go ahead and smash it, and then you can get notified whenever we go live. If you do Facebook, go ahead and join the Facebook group, which is Facebook/group/Tribune Commons. We try to keep a very respectful political debate community. Right now it's growing. It's about 500 people or so. So go ahead and check that out if you do Facebook. If you don't do Facebook, we're growing the Discord. So join our Discord. You get the link up on the top right-hand corner or so. And if you like Twitter, go ahead and follow me. I like to share memes, and whatever else that I feel like. Faith takes according to some people, cringe according to others. You be the judge. Go ahead and follow us at Crowdsourced Poll at Twitter. And as always, everybody, keep your head up through the political storm.